My name is Donald Garrison. I am almost 4 years clean on June 18th. I am an alcoholic, recovering addict, child of God. I also, I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Donald, thank you so much for coming out and taking some time to talk with us today.
My pleasure, my pleasure. It's
Yeah.
very exciting. It's, just an opportunity that I just couldn't pass up to be able to share some experience, strength, and hope.
Awesome. We really, really appreciate it. I know we all have busy lives, and taking this time to do this will help many other people. So thank you so much. Let's start at the beginning. Can you share a little bit about your childhood?
Well, I am from a small town outside of Cincinnati, Ohio. It's called Batavia. I grew up, I have an older brother. I have two sisters, and my mom and dad, they were together. My father was a military man. He was an 82nd Airborne. He was an airborne ranger, paratrooper, pretty badass guy. So he was very militant. I remember growing up that we had to wake up early. It was a lot of structure. Had to wake up early. All of us, we had like an acre and a half. We all had a push mower, and we had to get out there, and we had to do it together as a unit. So my father was an alcoholic as well. He was very abusive. He wasn't very emotionally available. So I watched him and my mom fight a lot of arguments, physical altercations, and he was very physically and verbally abusive towards me as well. So I remember one time, I was probably around 7, I got invited to the YMCA for overnight. And I can't remember exactly what happened, but I remember he beat me from the back of my neck to the ankles. And I couldn't even put my feet into the pool because of the chlorine. And so it's just, those were the kind of situations that we went through as a child. It was very flight or fight kind of situations. And so I noticed as I grew up that I took on that trait of kind of just avoidance. And so, it was like, hey, the situation, because it's kind of like, so you say I'm sorry. I was told I'm sorry, and I believed it. And so it just, when I just took the situations as they were, and like as I got older, I just know that people say, like, how do you handle situations so much? And it's like, I've been through so much as a child. Like, certain situations just don't seem as large to me as it does to other people. And I just know that all I try to do is just every day just continuously do the next best thing that I can do.
Are your parents still together today?
No, my father passed away in 2020.
Okay.
They divorced when I was 16. It was kind of an ugly divorce, but they ended up being best friends. They ended up being really good friends. My father passed from renal failure, and we found out that he was actually in Camp Lejeune when all of the water contamination and things like that, so that's being looked into. But with my father, I loved him very much. There wasn't a day, up until the day he died, there wasn't a day that I didn't try to make him proud. No matter what happened, that was still my father. And he was a good person. And I tell you what changed my outlook on, because once I became a parent, and I was wondering, I said, what is it about drugs and alcohol that has this grip on him to where he can't be emotionally there for his son. He can't be there for me. And once I became a parent, and I started to notice me doing the same exact things to my daughter, and I was like, I get it. And so we had conversations, and my father, when he passed away, he was 25 years sober. And he literally, and somebody said he had a chain with his coin on it, and somebody said that's literally carrying the message.
Okay, so let's go into your first use. What was that like? When did you start using? And then kind of maybe the progression.
Okay. I remember we used to drink this Cavassier wine that my cousin's mom used to have. So we used to sneak it. We would pour some, and then we pour some water back into it. And I was probably around 12. And then we started drinking Zimas with the Jolly Ranchers, yes. So that tells my age right there.
Right.
And I just remember the feeling. I just remember that there was nothing else that mattered at that moment. And my drinking, I immediately showed alcoholic symptoms. Immediately. It was blacking out, just drinking way too much, hangovers, fighting, anger, just those things. And it was immediate. I was getting in trouble with the cops. I remember I was drinking in Batavia on a hill one time, and I was drunk. The cops were there. I'm in the back of a cop car, and my mom actually worked. Literally, you could walk to her job from where I was drinking at, and so she had to come pick me up. She took me home. I woke up the next morning, and I had on nothing that I wore. There was no underwear on. I had on somebody's pants that said Stephanie and Stacy, best friends forever. I had on a girl's pair of pants. Wasn't my shirt. They had to bring my clothes to me. And so those were the things that, like, off the bat, that I just became, like, it was just alcoholic drinking from the very beginning.
Can you share with us the progression of your drug use as well?
Okay. Right around 12, I started drinking. 13 or 14, I started smoking marijuana. Just, joints, back alleys with friends, back roads, should I say, because we lived in the country, so we would drive the little back roads. I wasn't very experimental with drugs until I got into my mid-20s, but I did do acid a couple times. But when I think I started cocaine right around 24. And then that's about the time that I had some really good friends. One of them died from alcoholism. He had his liver shut down on him. He was only 31 or 32. Yeah, he never drank water. He never flushed his system. I could see the jaundice coming on him, and I rushed him to the hospital. I watched him take his last breath. I had another friend who got shot and killed over a dice game, and then I had a really good friend die of cancer. And all these guys, I looked up to them. They were older than I was. I looked up to them. They were like brothers to me. And I always would tell myself, okay, well, when Corey passed away from the liver issues, I was like, well, how can I honor him more than quit drinking and trying to do? So I tried to quit drinking, but I never dealt with any issues. It was like, you can't just stop drinking to try to honor somebody. There's other things that had to go into it. And so, that affected me a lot. And so my drinking got heavier, and then I started to use cocaine. And that was just finding cocaine and alcohol. That's just like, that's the alcoholic's like dream, because they equalize each other out, so you can go for days and days, and that's just what I did. I just binged for days. I lost relationships, lost friends. I just stopped caring about people, isolating, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Can you share a story of the lowest point of your addiction?
Yes. I was around 5 years homeless. I was sleeping on the streets of Cincinnati. In Cincinnati, there's a park called Finley. It's called Finley Park. It was once considered one of the most dangerous parks in the world. I was sleeping on park benches. I remember I was sleeping in the tube that the kids, like on the playground, the tube that the kids run through. That's where I was sleeping. I had two big luggage bags, and I had a book bag. And I remember I heard the kids one day, and it's early. I don't know, the sun's just coming up. Maybe it's around 7:30 in the morning, and I can hear the kids. And so I slide out of the tunnel, and I got my bags, and they called me Ballhead on the street. That was my street name. And I got laughed at, and it was so embarrassing. And when I was on the streets, I felt the better that I dressed, the less that people would look at me like, oh, because people have this preconception of what a alcoholic is. It's a bum on the bench with the paper bag on the, and it was like, so let me dress nice. And it was just the fact, like, they knew I was homeless because I can wear something nice, but I wore it for 7 days. You know what I mean? Like, you haven't went home and you're still in the street. So, but I ended up sleeping in a tent in my cousin's backyard. I started sleeping in the back of his Honda Pilot, and every single day, I worked at a brewery downtown. I would get off every day, and I would go get a gallon of Seagram's vodka, me a couple of beers, my cousin a couple of beers. I would ride the bus 15 minutes to get to his house. I would get off, go get my drugs, and I would go. And this one day he wasn't there. We would start a bonfire, a little fire in the fire pit, and we would just sit and we would just drink and talk all night. He wasn't there that night, and I never felt so lonely. I cried and cried and cried my eyes out. And I was just like, I'm sleeping in a tent. Like, My mom's could have sworn, she told me I was so smart when I was a kid. Like, I was doing my sister's, I was in 3rd grade doing my sister's, she was 3 years older than me, so she was in 6th grade. I was doing her homework in 6th grade when I was in 3rd. My mom told me she could have sworn I was going to be valedictorian. And I'm just sitting here like, all the potential that I have, everything that I know, really deep down, I know I'm talented, I know I'm smart, I know that I'm a handsome guy, I know that I have potential to do things in this world where I can in some way, shape, or form change it. But yet and still I'm sleeping in a tent in my cousin's backyard. I cried and I cried out to God, and I said, God, please deliver me from what I'm going through. The next day I woke up and I called a place called City Gospel Mission, and I had been in the shelter there for a few months, and I knew that they had a long-term rehabilitation program. And I said, I'm not doing 30 days, I'm not doing 60 days, I want long-term. Because in my mind I said, I'll go do 1 year for a lifetime. I can take this 1 year, I've wasted 5 already, let me take this 1 year, get myself together for the rest of my life. And so in recovery, we say there's one thing that we have to change, and that's everything. And that's exactly what I did. I called City Gospel Mission. So I had a court date, and they asked me not to come in until I went to that court date, which was 6 weeks later. And I used once. It wasn't an urge, it wasn't a yearning. I didn't go stealing for it. I literally went and used once, and in the 6 weeks, and I felt delivered. Like, it wasn't that fiending for it or nothing like that. And so when I walked into City Gospel Mission, the first thing that I said when I walked through the doors was, I'm destined for greatness. I had to change the way that I thought, because they told me you cannot act your way into right thinking. You have to think your way into right acting. Well, when I graduated, I got an honor. It was called More Than a Conqueror. And that was my valedictorian. They told me I looked like a professor because I would be the first person awake, the last person asleep. But when I would wake up, I would study. And so I had a concordance, I had a commentary, I had a Bible dictionary, I had a theology book. I was sitting there and they were just like, bro, you look like a professor. And I'm just like, I have to understand. I want to know as much as I possibly can. I want to connect in every single way that I can. And I started writing poetry again, writing letters, and I've always been a good speaker. And then they had something called Toastmasters International, which is a public speaking group. And so I joined Toastmasters, and I just try to perfect my art, because one of my goals in life, one of my aspirations is to be a motivational speaker, is to use the things that I have gone through to inspire others.
What are some stigmas that you have faced in recovery, whether it's from family, work, relationships, friendships, whatever?
I think I've had trouble with that once an addict, always an addict. Like, a leopard doesn't change its spots, you know? And so it bothers me, because we change, you know? And sometimes it's just, I don't know if it's people's ignorance, they're just naive and don't know about, or whether they just don't care. And that's one that has bothered me, is like, you know, it takes time. I didn't destroy all of this overnight, and so I'm not going to be able to fix it all overnight either, you know what I mean? And I'm not trying to look to fix anything. All I want to do is to make sure that I don't repeat that same cycle. And so that's the one that bothers me the most, is, oh man, people thinking just because. And I go back to the place where I used and drank, and I still converse, and I still hang with the people, and I still talk to them. And just some of those drug dealers and some of those people who are like, oh, what, you using again? You back? You want some of it? You know, those things like that. And all it is just, you know, I'm here still sharing that hope with these people, especially some of the guys. I have one guy in downtown, like, when I was using, almost everybody else, like, they were just there for whatever I could give, or I could provide for him. This is one person that I literally go back for because I consider him, he was my only true friend. No matter what I had, what I didn't have, he was there for me. He cried on my shoulder, I cried on his, you know, and I still go back and just inspire him. You know, specifically I go back and I look for him, but I still talk to the others as well. But I just want people to know that you can.
What is a feeling that you've received in your recovery that you did not have during your active use?
Joy. Freedom. Those are the two, joy and freedom. I just, no matter what I'm facing, I'm happy. There's nothing that can knock me off of that pedestal. I tell people I give from my overflow. I make sure every single day that I'm full. And the only way that I can, because if I don't give from my overflow, if I give from my cup, then I'm going to be empty. And so I make sure that I'm full before I give out of my overflow. And so it's just the joy and freedom.
Share what you've learned from your addiction.
What I've learned from my addiction, I think what I've learned from my addiction is that there's absolutely no rules or prerequisites. This is a deadly disease that will take you out very, very quickly. And it doesn't matter who it is. I've learned that there's no background that you can come from that prevents you from getting it. There's no amount of money that you can have. There's nothing out here in this world that can prevent this. We get an opportunity to do this, you know, and I just hope that somebody sees it, is able to seize something in it, something that I say, maybe a phrase, a word, and they're able to use it and to be able to help them in their recovery.
Mm-hmm. Next thing, looking into the camera, I'd like you to share some inspiration and hope for those that are still in active use.
I want you to know it's not going to be easy, but I'm going to let you know that it's going to be worth it. Every step in every fight that you fight, it's going to be hard. It's going to be depleting. It's going to take something out of you, but you get up that next day and you keep fighting and you keep going forward, and I promise you that all the things that you want are going to come unto you as long as you work hard for it. It's not going to be handed to you. It's not going to be given, but I promise you that it's going to be worth it. When you look back, and I'm almost 4 years clean and sober, when I look back, every single battle in this war that I've been fighting has been absolutely worth it. And I just want you to know that it's going to be worth it for you too.
Beautiful. You said you have poetry.
I do.
Do you want to do one of those into the camera?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. I wish I could think of that last story too.
It's okay.
So it's called Mousetrap. So the mouse is my disease. My house is my mind. So I have a disease running loose in my mind. I have a mouse that runs loose in my house. It clicks on Internet Explorer, and there my addiction begins. It's not pornographic, but it's erotically on a level that photography cannot touch, an aperture ring cannot adjust, a silhouette's darkness cannot hide. My concept is originally related with the Great Depression. It's prohibition. A millionaire asked, should I sell oranges now? I was rich, but now I'm poor. With each long neck, the feeling increases. My mind adjusts. Now I'm on top of the world. Forget the Surgeon General and the government cautions on the side of the bottle that tells me the wrong things that I'm liable to do. You need to slow your roll. My mama used to say, but you know what my mama used to also say? That there'll be days like this, there'll be days like this. Mama said, mama said, mama said, mama said, there'll be days like this, and there'll be days like this, my mama said. And as I strayed away slowly, the government's cautions were obsolete to my mother's pleas. Not knowing the depth of my addiction, I swore that my actions would be separate, but the same results come from the same horse. I bet the aqueduct can find a contraceptive for these inbreeds, so I buffed up and I became tough like Rocky's opponent, to sit back and cry like the day of a reckoning. And they say admitting the fact is the first step, but I tried. The devil's mouth is opening. He's coming for me. All while this continuously strong structure breaks down like Stonehenge in a tsunami's wake. All while this chemical disrupts and destructs this recipient's receptors, and that is a mousetrap.